Well, today is September 12th, 2011, one day after September 11th, 2001, the 10th anniversary of the attack on the United States. And we are here at Lakewood Country Club with Ed Josler. And the interviewers are Dave Cleveland and Vic Ermel. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Edmund Josler, otherwise known as Fast Eddie. Ed, why don't you start by telling maybe your little life story as to where were you born, and take it from that point forward for us, if you would, please.
Okay, I was actually born in Evanston, Illinois, which is the first suburb immediately north of Chicago, just over the borderline. But my family at that time lived in Chicago.
Okay.
North side, Rogers Park.
And you were born when?
I was born 5/24/27, which makes me 84 years old right now.
Keep going from there. Where did you live?
Okay, we lived in Chicago and lived on the north side for my 8 years in grammar school, St. Ignatius Grammar School, and then on to Loyola Academy. And after I graduated from Loyola Academy in 1945, I was immediately drafted into the Army, and I didn't get overseas until 1946, where I spent the year in Germany and Italy and Switzerland, and frankly had a wonderful time, and then came home and, courtesy of the GI Bill, got a college education at Loyola University. At that time it was quite difficult to get into school because of all the returning GIs, so I was fortunate to be able to get started at Loyola, and I stayed a day hopper and lived at home and completed the course there at the university in the north side of Chicago in downtown Chicago. And I went to work for, after that I went to work for the Commonwealth Edison Company. My father was in the electrical business. He was an agent, and that looked pretty good to me. And so he arranged for me to go to work and do line work and underground work. I told them I wanted to learn a little bit about underground cable, so they put me on a truck and sent me out in the field and handed me a long-handled shovel and said, 36 inches down and straight ahead. But I also did some overhead line work and hiked a few poles. And I did that for a year, and it was a wonderful education, both socially to realize you're working with some pretty solid, smart guys, and in their overalls. And of course it gave me a good feel for the industry too. And from there I went on to work for an electrical cable company, Okanite, and I worked for them for 5 years as a direct salesman. And after 5 years I was calling on G&W Electric on the south side of Chicago, and they offered me a job there and a chance to become an independent manufacturer's rep. So I moved to the south side and went to work for G&W for about a year and a half, and the agent here in Cleveland dropped dead of a heart attack, actually, so they offered me the Northern Ohio Territory, which to act as their agent. Hopefully I would pick up other non-competing lines, and it was a wonderful opportunity. At that time, Cleveland was the most desirable territory because of the steel mills and every other type of industry we had, so that worked out well. When I moved to the south side in 1956, I moved into a hotel with 2 other bachelors, and in that hotel there was 63 airline stewardesses. In those days they were really pretty classy. Well, anyhow, Jerry was a stewardess for American Airlines, and we decided to get married. So I moved to Cleveland in 1957, and also we got married in 1957. But leading up,
Did you continue on as a stewardess at that
no, those days you were through as soon as you. That was the end of her working career.
He was a Kiwi.
Yeah, she was a Kiwi. And I believe Janet worked for America,
Yes,
didn't she?
Correct, that's right. She wasn't a stewardess, but she was in sales in the marketing area downtown. But
So anyhow, we came to Cleveland and looked around, and actually I had only been to Cleveland once for a friend's wedding, and that was the only exposure I'd had to Cleveland. But it didn't take us long to decide that we wanted to live on the west side, and we looked around at the various suburbs and decided Bay Village looked pretty much what we felt we'd like. And so we lived for a year in Rocky River and then bought a house in Bay Village. Also, I always had it in my craw that I wanted to belong to a country club. So I began thinking about it that time, although my wife was saying, hey, you're crazy, you know, you got to get your business going first. But anyhow, in 1959, I was working at a large office where we had a bunch of independent guys and salespeople and that, and a couple of them belonged to Lakewood. So one was John Artipus, which a few guys might remember, and he brought me out here. And actually, I played Elyria Country Club, and I looked, Avon Oaks was just starting up, and the thought crossed my mind, well, it might be good to get in the ground floor of a country club. But ultimately, I decided I'd like to belong to Lakewood Country Club. And so Artipus sponsored me, and that's how I came to be here.
so you're a life member now.
And now I can't believe it. Yes, I've been 1959, so that means I've been around here for, what, 52 years. And,
Fantastic.
yeah, it's been a good 52 years.
Well,
In
before
our
we get into the club and everything, how about your family?
Yeah, well, as our case, of course, socially here, Jerry and I are plopped in Cleveland. We knew absolutely nobody. We had no family here. So Lakewood really turned out to provide us a wonderful group of friends and social life. And we felt very fortunate to be accepted by these people, apparently, and from that aspect, it's been great. As I said, I went to Loyola in Chicago, and somehow I found a bunch of guys from St. Ignatius that belonged here, high school, and but it's been great. And also for our family, because when holidays came, why I'm thinking more of the summer holidays, like Decoration Day and that, we'd bring our family. We raised 5 kids here, and we'd bring them out here for the holidays. You know, Bernie Harrison, he was running the games and directing the kids on these holidays, and the pony rides and the golf cart rides, which turned out to be more popular than the pony rides. And now it's right through to Bernie seeing these same kids all get married, and he's directing the weddings. So that was wonderful, and the kids loved it. And another big aspect there for them was the swim team. And they learned a little bit about competition and camaraderie, and all 5 of them had some experiences with the swim team. And I thought that was wonderful. I thought it was a great education for them. Now we got grandkids, and I hope we'll get them started on the swim team.
Well, for the record, can you rattle off your 5 children's names?
Yeah, our oldest is Kathy. She's in Florida now. She's assistant general manager of a hotel in Florida. The second one is Cindy, and Kathy's divorced. and didn't have any children. Cindy lives at Avon Lake. She is married to a McElhaney. She has a son, a grandson in Bowling Green, and a girl in Avon Lake High School. Michael's a CPA, and he lives in Westlake. And he, let's see, he lives in Westlake. Oh, he has twins, a boy and a girl. And the next one is Cindy, and she lives in Brunswick, and she's got one girl. And Julie lives in Chicago, and she has one boy. So that's the rundown on the kids, and they're all doing, I'd say, reasonably well.
Great.
And how many grandchildren do you have then?
We have 6.
6. Wow, that's great.
But I hung around with the Blakesleys and the Kellys, you know, and I was a piker because they were up in the high 20s, and they were into the great grandkids. But I didn't get married till I was 20. I was 29, so that was a little late in life. But it all turned out well. And the other aspect of Lakewood Country Club and my business as a manufacturer's agent, I did some entertaining. But I have maintained there is just no way to entertain customers effectively as a country club. I bring them out here and I play golf and give them the whole shot, lunch, dinner. And that carried me all year. Every time we'd get together with my customers, they'd talk about their experiences at Lakewood Country Club last summer. And it really was a wonderful asset for our business. I guess you don't do as much of that today, but in those days it was a very important part of business. And I'd say we accomplished a lot business-wise also. So really from standpoint of family and standpoint of social life and from business, Lakewood Country Club has been a wonderful asset for us.
It's obviously been a very big part of your life.
Yeah, well, it is. There's pluses and minuses in living in a town with no family. You're free to really operate as you feel like operating, but they filled a void there in a way, you might say.
Who were some of the people that you met? Remember you said Blakesleys?
Yeah, Pete Blakesley, Don Kelly, Merle Sanger, and George Light.
Right.
And then I got in with, one day on the golf course, I ran into Dave Woodward and Don Rebar and remained friends with them over the years and some of their group. And it's really evolved into now where we have a great senior group. They kid us about the round table down there, but we've got a group of as many as 25 to 30 guys, and on any given day a guy can come out here and find a retired guy can come out and find a golf game or a gin rummy game with his contemporaries. And it's something that's just worked out, I think, extremely well. I think I was instrumental in bringing it up, and I kind of patterned it after a group I belonged to in Florida. And I think it's still a terrific thing. We're going to have a dinner this month, and we have one every year with the wives and get 50-some people to attend. And I think everybody pretty much enjoys it and gives them a good golf and social outlet. My wife calls it the daycare center.
Maybe that's what we should rename it.
Yeah.
Daycare center. That's
Well,
not bad.
It is the daycare group. I stayed home for lunch one day, and she said, "What do you want?" So,
Yeah, that's good.
but she's met a lot of absolutely delightful girls she knows, like Janet, and we take Don Burney, and We were in an outing last week down to Worcester College and for the Worcester Light Opera, and that's just, it's been great. So we feel most fortunate.
Well, tell us about your golfing game out here at Lake.
Well, I never was a great golfer. I think my peak was when I hit a 13 handicap,
Okay.
and I was kidded. I said I didn't